Okay, everybody, welcome back to another video after a long hiatus, as usual. So we're hot off the heels of the PlayStation 5 Pro's technical showcase by Mark Cerny, and yeah, the initial reactions are mainly to one thing, and that's the price. So here in the U.S., where I'm located, it's going to be $700, and that is quite a pill to swallow. I think a lot of the predictions were thinking low 600 to 650-ish discless, and then maybe if they added a disc console, it'd be around 700. However, Sony is launching the PS5 Pro as only a digital console, so you get no disc drive, and you can add it after the fact, but it's going to be $80, so plus 80. So if you want a PS5 Pro and you need that disc drive, then you're looking at 700 plus $80, and then plus taxes, of course. um, and the PS5 Pro also doesn't come with the stand. So that stand you see in the image here, I forget how much that costs. I think it's $20 or $30. I mean, it's pretty substantial because I think it's like mostly made out of metal. But yeah, if you plan to um, have your PS5 standing vertical like this, then yeah, you got to shell out another 20 to $30. So you're looking at over $800 for the full package. That's not even including tax. So that's pretty wild. Um, yeah, so Sony seems to be in their PS3 era again, and they're doing this mid-generation, which is unprecedented for sure. But yeah, the price aside, we can talk about the technical specifications. Now, in my opinion, it is pretty impressive. So these were leaked out, like these three main points. I think Mark Cerny was calling them the big three. They did leak several months prior, so we kind of had a good idea of what was going to be inside the console. But yeah, so the overall rasterization performance, so just like the raw graphical um, performance at 2D scale for 4K, is up to 45% faster. That's a pretty healthy jump. And then 67% more compute units. So that essentially means like there's more GPU processors in the die itself, so like in the actual processor, but that really only equates to about 45% faster rendering. And the reason why is that the clock rate is a little bit lower. They don't actually tell us here, but I think from other leaks we can see that it's like slightly over 2 gigahertz, whereas the original PS5 was around 2.2 gigahertz. So the original PS5 is clocked around 10% higher than the PS5 Pro. However, the PS5 Pro has far more processors to use for compute power. And then the other main thing is the advanced ray tracing. So the ray tracing is getting like a 2 to 3 times increase over standard PS5. So that's pretty significant. Um, One of the standout games that they showed was Gran Turismo 7. So previously that game, it did actually run at 4K 60 on PS5. However, that's without ray tracing. If you wanted to view ray tracing in the game, you could only do it through the game replays. Um, and those I think ran at 4K 30 with ray tracing. But now that game is going to be updated to support the PS5 Pro, and because of the stronger ray tracing capability on the console, it'll actually be able to do 4K 60 with ray tracing in game. So that's pretty impressive. I think I also read that it's going to have 8K support. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't imagine many of us even have 8K TVs. Maybe we could do 8K downscaling to 4K, and maybe it'd look amazing. I don't know. But yeah. And then also the other really interesting feature is the AI upscaling, which PlayStation calling PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. So that's essentially a machine learning algorithm that can upscale or yeah, essentially upscale an image to a higher resolution. It's very similar to NVIDIA's DLSS or AMD's FSR. Not quite as akin to FSR, it's more so like DLSS. But yeah, so that's going to be pretty interesting. And the games that do utilize that properly are probably going to see a healthy boost, either to frame rate or just visual in general, over PS5. So I think overall, as a package, this is an impressive console. It's just the price that is so out there, for especially for consoles. Like this is unheard of. I think the last time we had a sticker shock like this was legitimately the PS3, hence why I mentioned that earlier. But yeah, pretty insane of them to just drop this bombshell on us. But of course, people are gonna buy it. That's just how it is. Sony is currently in that position right now, and Xbox isn't really providing much competition for Sony to really consider lower prices. Here's an image of the PS5 Pro, and then having the optional disc drive. Like I said, that optional disc drive and the cover are $80. And the PS5 Pro will not be sold with a disc drive. So if you want that capability, you have to shell out $80 plus tax. Other things you can see here is that I guess yeah, you can kind of see from here. The so here's a standard PS5 disc base console. This is the slim version, and then this is the Pro. So it looks like the Pro is just a taller version of the slim. I don't know if it's essentially wider or not, but it also looks like you'll be able to use the same console covers. So if you currently own a slim and you're looking to upgrade to the PS5 Pro, if you bought new console covers for your slim, it looks like you should be able to use them on your PS5 Pro. And also, like, if you have a slim with the disk drive, you could probably just swap the disk drive onto the PS5 Pro and then register it to the console and be able to use it that way. um, so I guess that might technically be a cost saving idea, but yeah, we'll see how that goes in actuality. But yeah, you can see, so it has the three stripes here. I'm assuming those are just venting for the fan. I don't know. They didn't talk about whether or not the fan is larger in this console. Now, the console is physically larger, but it easily could just be using the same exact fan as the PS5 Slim, and then just the motherboard having to be a little bit larger, or like a larger heatsink, which is most likely the case. But I would hope that they would also increase the diameter of the fan. That would help with one, airflow, and also lowering the sound. The operating sound of the console. Um, because the Slim is actually a bit louder than the original PS5. And the original PS5 did have a massive fan, and they did cut that down for the Slim, of course. But yeah, that's usually a good indicator of the sound profile of a console, the fan size. Yeah, so overall, a pretty interesting presentation. It was only 9 minutes long, which is kind of surprising, but they pretty much outlined everything that we already expected, minus the price, of course. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how the market reacts to this. From the rumblings on Twitter, it seems that most people are going to pass on it, but that's just that's the vocal Twitter. I don't know if that's going to be the actual case when the console releases on November 7th here in the States and worldwide. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, if anybody has other thoughts, I'd like to hear them, because I think overall this is just a really interesting time for consoles in general. This generation in general actually has just been unprecedented, in the sense that usually when a console releases, that's when it is most expensive. So, like, I don't know, the PS4 released at $400 back in 2013, but by the time that it was transitioning to PS5, you can get a PS4 for $300. As time goes on, parts typically get cheaper and cheaper, and things get easier for the companies to produce with the assembly lines and such. But this generation, starting off, in the middle of COVID, where a lot of production facilities were closed down, prices were increasing, steadily increasing, and yeah, it's just really interesting because prices have not come down at all, at all. Everything has just been increasing, and the United States has seen like the lesser of that evil, I suppose you could say. Um, because Sony does really prioritize the US in terms of their sellable market. Um, so, we've had the disc consoles stay at $500. However, the digital console has increased by $50. When it released, it was 400. Now it's 450. And if you want to add the disc drive, it's another $80. So they are looking at ways to increase the spend per capita on the PlayStation brand. Yeah, it's very interesting. I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on that. And then when we look at Xbox, Xbox clearly isn't doing a mid-gen refresh. I think their strategy really is to try to win next gen. And the way they'd probably be doing that is to release before the PS6 and to release cheaper than the PS6. Um, they might try and pull another Xbox 360. Who knows? I think it would be a good shakeup for them and for Sony actually to do something like that, because if Xbox was competitive right now, this gen, we would not be seeing this kind of I don't want to use the word arrogance, but this kind of trust in consumers in buying their product that Sony is doing right now. The PS5 Pro may not have even existed, or if it did, it certainly would not have been released at $700. But yeah, those are just some of my thoughts. Like I said earlier, I would like to hear what other people think as well. I think it's super interesting. And let me know if you are buying this console or not buying this console, and reasons as to why. Like, are there the games that are being updated right off the bat? Are those the ones that you frequently play? Or is the price so off putting that you're not even considering this, or, vice versa, whatever is going on? Anyway, thank you for watching and listening to my rambling. This was the PS5 Pro report. Thank you.